NASCAR has a ton of great drivers with a ton of great stories. Let's go through and explain each 2025 full-time driver in the Cup Series in number order. Starting off strong, we have Ross Chastain, who drives the one car for Trackhouse Racing. You probably know him from the famous wall ride he pulled off at Martinsville a few years back. It's safe to say that he might have a few screws loose up top if he's crazy enough to pull off a move like that, and his reputation for aggression doesn't just come from that wall ride. He's had his share of run-ins and conflicts since he joined Trackhouse in 2022, where he's become a top driver in the sport. And being a guy who worked his way up the ranks naturally based on talent, he's certainly one of the more loved guys in the Cup Series. Austin Cindric drives the famous number 2 car for Team Penske. Cindric is one of those guys that you often just don't think about when you watch a NASCAR race. Yes, he's a Daytona 500 champion, and yes, he's won in 3 out of 4 of his full-time seasons, but he's easily the weakest of the Penske drivers, and he got his ride mostly off the back of his father, Tim Cindric, who was the president of Penske until he got fired for cheating at the Indy 500. Plenty of fans will argue that Cindric probably shouldn't have this ride. Speaking of drivers who shouldn't have the ride they do, Austin Dillon drives the 3 car for Richard Childress. He's one of the biggest nepotism rides in the sport. His grandfather literally owns the team, and it's made worse by the fact that they brought Dale's number 3 out of retirement for him. All things considered though, at least he's a decent Cup Series driver with 5 wins and several playoff appearances, but all those wins have an asterisk. In particular, Austin's win at Richmond in 2024, where he raced to the checkers like you and I do versus the AI in racing games. Noah Gragson is one of NASCAR's most chaotic drivers. Whether it's throwing up after winning, a disgusting haircut, or pranking Kyle Busch, he's going to be chaotic and he's pretty popular for it. He won the fan vote to get into the All-Star race on multiple occasions. He had a lot of success coming up through the Xfinity Series and was a hyped rookie, but he's never quite properly fit in at the Cup level and remains winless. To be fair, that is a lot due to bad equipment though. He's still pretty young, so he's got some time to break out in Cup. Kyle Larson is perhaps the most versatile race car driver in the world right now. He'll win on dirt during the week, then come and whoop the field on any given Sunday. Not to mention he's also qualified and run top 10 at the Indy 500. His biggest flaw, though, is that he often just goes too hard in the paint and spins out or crashes and costs himself wins. While he currently drives for Hendrick, he started his career at Chip Ganassi Racing and absolutely carried that 42 car. And of course, as soon as he got top equipment, he won a championship. He struggled to dominate with the Gen 7 car, though. Brad Keselowski is the 2012 NASCAR Cup Series champion. For a decade, he drove the Penske 2 car, but he decided to leave at the end of 2021 to become a part owner of Roush Fenway Racing, rebranded to RFK Racing. Since then, it's been up and down for Brad, but the team has definitely been revived from where it was before Brad came in. With the team having 6 wins in 4 years, the first time the team had won on raw pace since Carl Edwards left in 2014. Now it seems like Brad just can't catch a break, as every time things are going well, something goes wrong. A penalty, a failure, whatever it is, they just can't put together a full race in that 6 car very often. Justin Haley is an interesting driver. He's had a journeyman career, but it all got kicked off by a fortunate Thunder-assisted win at Daytona in 2019. Driving for Spire Motorsports, a backmarker that barely anyone knew the name of, the win fell right into his lap thanks to the leaders pitting right before the weather came. Since then, he's found some success in the Xfinity Series and has moved to Cup full-time as a pretty consistent driver. He started full-time with Kaulig Racing as they moved into the Cup Series, but seeing how much they were struggling, he made the shocking choice to move to Rick Ware Racing, the team that many would consider the worst in NASCAR. But he actually made it work and had some darn good runs. And this got him traded mid-season back to Spire, where he now drives the 7 car. Kyle Busch is one of NASCAR's greatest drivers of all time. In fact, if you combine all 3 National Series, he's the all-time wins leader in the history of the sport. But in 2023, he moved from Joe Gibbs Racing, a top 3 team in NASCAR, to Richard Childress Racing, certainly not a top 3 team. And despite one good season, he has not been the same guy since the start of 2024. Much like Brad Keselowski, it seems like something happens at the exact wrong time for Kyle Busch every time he's close to getting back to victory lane. I mean, seriously, the list is just unbearable for Busch fans. Spinning at Kansas with 7 laps left, spinning at Sonoma on the last lap, getting wiped out by Kyle Larson running out of gas, just barely losing in the Southern 500, getting passed on the last lap of Daytona by the guy who's 33rd in points, backing his car into the wall as soon as the announcers mention his good day, and losing it at Kansas while fighting for the lead. You gotta feel for Kyle Busch fans. Let's hope he's not washed up. Chase Elliott is NASCAR's current golden boy. Born of Bill Elliott, the most popular driver in the history of the sport, Chase has taken over that mantle and wins the award year in and year out. It also helps that he was a hugely hyped prospect coming out of the Xfinity Series and took over Jeff Gordon's 24 car, before switching to the 9 to honor his dad. Chase broke out in 2018, winning 3 races, and after another couple of good seasons, won the 2020 championship. In 2022, he was probably the best driver in NASCAR, but after breaking his leg in 2023, things haven't quite been the same. He's still super consistent and among the points leaders every year, but finding those coveted first-place finishes has been a struggle. We'll see if he can start rattling off wins again. Austin Dillon's younger and sometimes forgotten brother, Ty, has faced more adversity in his career. Though his grandfather certainly helped him, he's never outright drove for RCR in the Cup Series, and so his seat in the 10-car at Kaulig Racing is at least partly earned on merit. Ty's never really been a true threat in Cup because he's driven from backmarker teams his whole career. He averages 1 top 10 a season. But he did find some success in trucks and Xfinity in the early 2010s, and he had a moment where he got called Lewis Hamilton.
Todd Gilliland looks like Lewis Hamilton out here.
That's about it for his career highlights, though. Denny Hamlin is NASCAR's most controversial driver. Instantly successful in his rookie season in 2006, Denny became your average, run-of-the-mill, moderately liked veteran driver by the mid-2010s. But after wrecking the Golden Boy at Martinsville in 2017, Denny has embraced the dark side, and had his share of run-ins and bragging. He's now one of the most booed drivers at the track on a week-to-week basis, and it seems fans are bound to either love him or hate him. It's nice to know NASCAR still has personalities like that. Now, Denny is the winningest driver in history without a championship, and he's had a laundry list of choke jobs in the playoffs, from his team putting tape the size of a front door on his grill in the championship race, to getting eliminated by Ross Chastain's wall ride. He can't quite seem to find his way to that trophy, but he does have 3 Daytona 500s to make up for it. Ryan Blaney is everyone's second favorite NASCAR driver. He's a very likable guy and the 2023 Cup champ, but he just hasn't rounded up as big of a die-hard fan base as some others. Perhaps that has to do with his driving for Team Penske. Their drivers don't tend to have a good reputation among the fans. But Blaney is one of the top drivers in the sport now, and probably the fastest Ford on a week-to-week basis. He was a 1-win-a-season type of guy for the first few years of his career, but after finally having a 3-win season in 2021, he's now one of the best. Admittedly, he did kind of steal his championship in 2023 by winning at Martinsville and then finishing second at Phoenix, but he's still on a Hall of Fame trajectory. Maybe he can add a few more cups to his trophy case. AJ Allmendinger is the first of what we like to call road course ringers in the Cup Series. They're guys known for their experience not just turning left but also right. And even if you're not the greatest at ovals, knowing your way around a road course well enough is good enough for a ride in modern NASCAR, where all you need is 1 win to make the playoffs. With a background in open-wheel racing, AJ's ability to turn right has scored him 3 wins in the Cup Series. But he's also pretty solid at ovals, too. He has 18 wins in the Xfinity Series, including 2 Championship 4 appearances. If you need someone to carry bad equipment to a win at a road course, AJ's your guy. Chris Buescher's career started with success in the lower series. He picked up 7 wins in 2 years in the trucks, then moved to Xfinity and won the championship. But unfortunately, he was moved up to mid-equipment in the Cup Series with Front Row and then JTG Doherty Racing. Despite the mid-equipment, he actually landed a win at Pocono in 2016 with the help of some fog rolling in. He moved over to Roush Fenway in 2020, yet another mid-team, and it looked like he was about to just have a career as a field filler until Brad bought his stake and the team rapidly improved. Since Brad joined, Buescher has won 5 races in 3.5 years, including 3 in 2023, which came with a 7th place points finish. Buescher is now a pretty reasonable threat to win a race every few weeks, and if RFK continues to improve, he could become one of the top drivers in NASCAR, but for now I'd say he's a tier below. Chase Briscoe might be the other Chase to some people, but he's still a darn good driver. In the Xfinity Series in 2020, he absolutely dominated, winning 9 races and getting promoted to Stewart-Haas's 14 car the next season. At the dying team that was SHR, he struggled to find consistency, but he did have a pretty solid 2022 season. In 2025, he moved to Joe Gibbs Racing, and now definitely has the potential to be one of the top guys, even if he's been known for a few of the more comedic moments in recent memory, like spinning out Denny Hamlin while he had a penalty, blowing it at the Bristol Dirt Race, and spinning while fighting for the lead at the Coke 600. Despite these troubles, which he certainly gets his fair share of flack for, he's no doubt one of the fastest drivers in Cup, and one of the nicest and most genuine guys too. It's hard to hate a guy like Briscoe. Christopher Bell is one of the S-tier drivers in NASCAR right now. He's had multi-win seasons 4 years in a row now, and made 2 out of the last 3 championship races. With a background on dirt, he makes for an incredible driver, and he had a ton of success in Xfinity too, at one point being a part of the Big 3 with Cole Custer and Tyler Reddick. He started in Cup a little older than some guys, so he might not have as much time to get it done, but it feels like a championship is inevitable for him. Josh Berry was a very good local short track racer for years until one day Dale Jr. finally decided to give him a ride in the Xfinity Series. He won 5 races in less than 2 years and got a chance as a sub for several drivers over the course of 2023. He replaced Kevin Harvick in the 4 car at Stewart-Haas Racing in 2024. That didn't go too well though, as the company would downsize to 1 team by 2025. But this actually worked out for Berry as he moved to the Wood Brothers, and instantly the team looked significantly better, and he even won at Las Vegas. He's got pretty consistent speed, especially at the intermediate tracks, which is ironic given his background. Despite it being only his 2nd year in Cup, he's already 34 years old, so we'll see where his career can go from here. Perhaps the most hated driver in NASCAR today is Joey Logano. It's not just the fact that he comes from a wealthy family, or that people find him to be cheesy off the track. Fans don't like how fond he is of the bump and run, or in some cases the dump and run. And not to mention Joey wins like a pest. He comes out of nowhere and you just can't get rid of him. He hasn't led 1,000 laps in a season since 2015, and despite that he's got 23 wins and 3 championships in that span. One minute you'll be watching the race and your favorite driver is leading, about to win, and the next Joey Logano will have appeared out of 20th place to win the race. And then he'll go to the championship race and steal that one too. There was a time in the mid-2010s where he genuinely was dominant, but those days are gone. Yet it still feels like he's going to snatch the trophy every year. Thanks NASCAR playoff system. Bubba Wallace is one of only a few household names left in NASCAR, but unfortunately it has nothing to do with on-track activity. People might be surprised when they realize he's actually a seasoned Cup vet at this point, 8 years into his career. He kicked things off strong with 5 wins in his first 2 truck seasons, but then he struggled with mediocre equipment in Xfinity. When he moved up to Cup with Richard Petty Motorsports in the 43, he ran fairly well for a team that was one of the worst in the garage. In 2021 he moved to Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan's new team, 2311. The team worked through some growing pains, but did get a rain-shortened win at Talladega, then won on pace at Kansas the following year. Since then, Bubba's had his fair share of chances to snag wins, but can't quite seem to put it all together, and has only made the playoffs once. Compared to his teammate, it feels like Bubba struggles to measure up, but he'll have his chance to turn things around. For a couple of years, every time William Byron would win a race, we would hear over and over again about how he
started on a computer!
And it is true, he got started in his teens through iRacing and eventually moved to Legends cars in real life, when he was signed by Dale Jr. to run late models and climbed through the ranks. He instantly won 7 races in trucks, then instantly won the Xfinity title, then moved up to Cup at only 20 years old. It took him a few years to get going, but he really broke out in 2023, winning 6 races and cementing himself as a top-tier driver. He's leading the points in 2025 and has won at almost every type of track: road courses, superspeedways, intermediates, and short tracks. So even though he might just be the next Jeff Gordon in that 24 car, I think many of us will always think of him as Computer Boy. Todd Gilliland comes from a racing family, but make no mistake, he's earned his seat in the Cup Series. 20 top 5s in 3 years in the Truck Series got him moved up to Front Row Motorsports and Cup. He was definitely outran by his veteran teammate Michael McDowell, but that was expected. By his 3rd season, Todd was consistently outrunning his equipment and got promoted in the 2025 offseason to become the top driver at the team, taking over the 34 car. He struggled to keep up the pace this year, but what he lacks in speed he makes up for in personality. I mean seriously, Todd's one of the funniest guys in the field, and it feels like no one realizes it. Riley Herbst is the first rookie in this video, and he's struggled dearly. He's mostly in his ride thanks to his connections, and that's pretty clear on the track. Despite running for 2 of the top teams in Xfinity, Riley only scored 3 wins over 5 full-time seasons. And now moving up to Cup, he sits 35th in points, despite both of his teammates sitting above the playoff cut line. Even for the commentators, it's hard to remember that 2311 has a 3rd car. One thing that he has going for him is that he's still young. Give him a couple years and maybe he can step up his game. Zane Smith was a great Truck Series driver from 2020 to 2023. He won a championship and had 2 second-place points finishes. He skipped Xfinity and went full-time at Front Row in 2024, where he had a solid season for a rookie in a midfield team, though he still wound up 30th in points. He's making steady improvements this season. I could definitely see him having a career similar to Buescher, but for now he's just getting started. Cole Cole Custer has a similar story to Austin Cindric. In fact, both are very successful Xfinity champions, Cup Series winners, and are related to a former or current team executive. Despite the nepotism, it's hard to criticize Cole too much given the extent of his success in the lower series, especially when you consider how bad Haas has gotten over the years. You can definitely argue that he should have done better in 2020 and 2022 when Kevin Harvick was able to score multiple wins with the same equipment, but Custer was still young and perhaps was still getting adjusted to the top level. Regardless, he's little more than an afterthought these days as Haas has fallen to being one of the worst teams in NASCAR, and he's currently 34th in points. John Hunter Nemechek is the son of former Cup winner and Xfinity Series champ Joe Nemechek. He's been around in the lower series for about a decade now, and he's found a ton of success in both trucks and Xfinity, especially when he got the chance to drive the 20 car in 2023. He moved up to Cup last year and had a rough rookie season, but now he's really starting to come into his own, definitely helped by Legacy Motor Club finally starting to find their footing again. He's already got 6 top 10s and 1 top 5 on the year, and if he continues to improve, he could have himself a solid and lengthy Cup career. If that doesn't work out though, he's always got his YouTube shorts that he could fall back on, which have hundreds of millions of views. Erik Jones has had a solid Cup Series career, though it hasn't quite lived up to his hype as a truck champion and being moved into the 20 car at Joe Gibbs Racing. He won 2 races at JGR in his 3 years at the team, and unless you have heavy sponsor backing or are friends with the right people, that's not going to be enough to keep your ride at one of the top teams. Especially in 2020 when your team wins 9 races and you win 0. Unfortunately though, he faced a pretty severe demotion into the dying Richard Petty Motorsports team. But thanks to GMS and Jimmy Johnson buying into the team, Erik has actually done a really good job in what was a backmarker just a few years ago. I'm not sure what his path back to consistent playoff contention is, but it's probably not with Legacy Motorsports. I think regardless of what happens, I'll always know him as
that Jones boy.
And for saying,
"How about that race, boys and girls?"
And for winning the clash with the destroyed car. Tyler Reddick is arguably one of those top-tier guys in Cup today, and if he's not, then he's headlining the second tier. The 2-time Xfinity champ is known for his ability to run right next to the fence. That's how he won the trophy at Miami twice. He's also an incredible road course racer, with 3 of his 8 wins coming at Road America, Indianapolis, and COTA. He was the first non-Penske, Hendrick, or Gibbs driver to make the championship 4 since Kevin Harvick in 2019. Suffice to say that he's getting the best out of his equipment, and has been since he won 3 races with RCR in 2022. I'd say he's also got a great level-headed approach to racing. Level-headed would not exactly be the way I would describe Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He earned himself the nickname Recky Spinhouse Jr. over the course of his career, in large part thanks to his aggression, especially at superspeedways. It feels like every time there's a big wreck and they cut to the replay, it's always started by Keselowski, Logano, Stenhouse, or some combination of the 3. Whatever names you want to call him, it's clearly working for him. He's a 4-time winner on superspeedways and a Daytona 500 champion. That alone is enough to keep you in Cup for years. A very Michael Waltrip-esque career. Alex Bowman is one of the unique drivers in Cup who has almost no success in the lower series, and he started his career in backmarkers catching fire at New Hampshire. But he got the chance of a lifetime in 2016 when he subbed for Dale Jr., who was suffering from concussions. Bowman performed extraordinarily well for a 23-year-old with almost no experience. He almost looked better than Dale, and almost won at Phoenix. Hendrick picked him up full-time in 2018, and he won his first race the next year. Since then, he's been mostly a solid 1-win-a-year kind of guy, save for when he won 4 races in 2021, although he backed into a couple of those victories. People do pick on him for being the weakest of the Hendrick drivers, but he's still very consistent, even if he leads the fewest laps of the team. A high-floor, low-ceiling kind of driver. Cody Ware is the worst driver in NASCAR. He's only in the sport because of nepotism, and he's only got 2 top 10s in his 9-year career. For a while, he seemed like an industry plant the way he would crash and cause a caution so often. It feels like he's at least gotten better at keeping the car pointed straight, but other than that, he's a field filler. That's all there is to it. Ty Gibbs is the grandson of Joe Gibbs, so another nepotism driver, but he quickly silenced the doubters when he won in his first ever National Series race at the Daytona Road Course. He instantly became one of the hottest drivers in Xfinity and won 7 races and the championship in his first full-time year, but his move up to Cup has been pretty disappointing so far. He's run over 100 races with JGR and still hasn't won, despite looking very fast at the start of 2024. He missed the playoffs in 23 and has had a terrible 2025 so far. If his name was Erik Jones, he'd probably be forced out in 2026, but I suspect due to his name, and to be fair, also his great Xfinity resume, he's going to be given a very long leash. Ryan Preece isn't a super popular driver, but he honestly should be for how tough the guy is alone. He's this generation's Ryan Newman with all the insane crashes that he's had in the Cup Series. I mean, seriously, when your face looks like this because your blood vessels popped after flipping 11 times and you still race the next week, that deserves some respect. He's also totally free from any nepotism or filthy rich upbringing. Everything he's gotten, he's earned. And despite his career being mostly in backmarkers, now that he's with RFK Racing, I suspect that first win might just be on the horizon. Michael McDowell has driven in mid-equipment for his whole career, but he's started to outperform it on a pretty consistent basis over the past 5 years. Winning a race in a front row car is not easy, but Michael McDowell got it done twice. He's a Daytona 500 champ, and for some reason over the past year or so has become an absolute rocket in qualifying, with 7 poles. Again, in very mid cars. He's also great on road courses, another driver with open wheel experience. Even though he's already 40, it feels like he's just hitting his stride in his career. We'll see if he can continue the upward trend. Carson Hocevar might be the hottest name in NASCAR right now. A guy that was good enough in trucks to skip Xfinity and go Cup racing at 21. He started off great in 2023 when he subbed for Corey LaJoie and ran better than him in his own car until he had a mechanical failure. He had a solid first season and won Rookie of the Year, but in 2025 he's really started to break out. Hocevar has been running up front consistently, especially at the intermediate tracks. He could have won multiple races already this year. He finished second at Atlanta, was fighting for the win at the Coke 600 when his engine gave out, finished second at Nashville, and led 32 laps at Michigan. He's also one of the biggest social media presences in the sport. The guy streamed iRacing on Twitch during the Daytona 500 rain delay, and he's also got reels on Instagram with millions of views poking fun at himself. But that's not all. He's also known for being reckless on the track. He had altercations in the Truck Series, intentionally spun Harrison Burton under caution last year, and also developed a rivalry with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. And he's doing all of this with Spire Motorsports, a team that was never meant to actually compete until Justin Haley accidentally won a race for them. Hocevar is the guy to keep your eye on during every race. Shane Van Gisbergen is just built different at road courses. The perfect storm arose at the Chicago street course for him to come in and win in his first ever NASCAR race. The cars were now similar to the V8 supercars the New Zealand man drove back home, and the track was new, so it was an even playing field. When you win in your first race, you can't just quit there, so SVG moved to America and ran a season in Xfinity, where he won on 3 road courses, then moved to Cup full-time in 2025. He's struggled mightily on the ovals, and he found himself 33rd in points entering Mexico City, but he saved his season by whooping the field, winning by over 15 seconds like it was an F1 race, and he was driving a 2023 Red Bull. There's no question that he'll be a consistent road course threat for however long he wants to race, but if he can take that next step at ovals, he could have an incredible NASCAR career. The other foreign driver in the Cup Series is Daniel Suarez, and he's had a similar story to Erik Jones being booted out of Joe Gibbs Racing. But for Suarez, things are kind of flipped. He struggled mightily in the 19 car and also in the 41 car when he moved to Stewart-Haas. He moved to an uncharted backmarker car in 2020 and even missed the Daytona 500. It was beginning to feel like his career in Cup was pretty much over. He could go back down and be successful in Xfinity because he was a champion in that series. In 2021, he got what felt like one last chance at a brand new team called Trackhouse Racing. And after a decent first year for an entirely new team, in 2022 the team bought out Chip Ganassi Racing and Suarez finally landed his first win. Since then he's only had 1 win in the last 3 years though, and when your teammate has made the championship 4 and won 6 races, that stat line is not ideal. And especially with his rough 2025, it was no shock to hear that he won't be returning in 2026, probably being replaced by the great young prospect Connor Zilisch. So that's every full-time driver in NASCAR explained. Thanks for watching, everyone.